And you do have these, right?
I do, yeah.
You do, okay.
Okay. Ten. And one written.
That's a new normal.
Yeah.
Did someone lower my chair while I wasn't looking? Yeah.
I didn't touch it. I'm teasing. I'm teasing. I did this when you were. I did this. No, I didn't touch
Yours
it.
is lower. I think I'm taller than you.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah. Oh, exactly. Me too. Every day. All right. Well, good morning. Good evening. And welcome to the May 15th, 2018 Federal Way City Council meeting. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you. We've got quite a full agenda. It's great to see so many people here today. We actually started off this morning with a very crowded house for something I want to talk about very briefly that's in the regional media and local media. We had a press conference this morning where we announced almost 2 years to the exact day that we have referred charges to the King County Prosecutor's Office for the 4 homicides that occurred in this community exactly 2 years ago. We had 3 homicides that occurred within a 48-hour period between May 9th and May 10th, and there was another homicide that occurred approximately 5 weeks before that, about a month prior to that. All 4 of those homicides were contained in the referrals that took 2 years of incredible hard work by our police department, our detectives, by our regional partners. I'd like to thank the chief, who did a great job. We had a full-on press conference in this room this morning with all of the regional media, and you may see some not only local but regional media about that. That work represented hundreds and hundreds of hours of interviews, of 50 search warrants, of the dogged determination of our police department in tracking down and holding accountable the 3 young individuals who decided to take the lives of those 4 people in our community. I said this morning as we started out the press conference that those crimes really rocked the very foundations of this community. But I went on to say that I think that what actually was the result was this community really came together. Days later, which was almost exactly, again, 2 years to the day. It was frankly, actually, the press conference, ironically, in response to the homicides, was the Tuesday after Mother's Day. And to the day, 2 years later, we had the press conference where we fulfilled the promise that we made that we would find, identify, arrest, and hold accountable the individuals responsible for those heinous crimes. That process started today, and the King County Prosecutor's Office has initiated charges on 3 individuals. I would encourage you to, I'm not going to get too far into the details other than to say I've never been more proud of my community, of our police department, of the willpower of this city council in making sure that we responded by adding officers and the follow-through with the Violence Prevention Coalition and its steering committee with the recommendations that were enacted into policy. We really came together. And before we said anything else tonight, I wanted to say thank you to our police and the community. That does actually dovetail with today being National Peace Officers Memorial Day. And before we get, we're going to have some swearing-ins here in a moment of our police personnel, but I do want to take a moment to talk about the importance of this day. It actually falls on May 15th, National Police Week, and it was established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962 when John F. Kennedy was president. National Police Week pays special attention to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for your selfless sacrifice and commitment to public service. I think it's altogether fitting that we have these swearing-ins today of our officers and to leadership positions, and we acknowledge all they do. Let's also take a moment tonight to remember the officers while lost while serving this community. Officers Frank Martin, Brian Walsh, and Patrick Marr. They were our co-workers, our friends, and brothers, and they're missed. And to the officers in our department, we all recognize and appreciate you for the heroic deeds you accomplish during occasional significant situations and critical incidents that occur in our community. And it's my wish that our citizens could see the extraordinary job you do every day, making this a safer community for our citizens, businesses, and visitors. Each of you has our gratitude and the gratitude of our community for the work you do every day. So let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you. It's a special sacrifice, and it takes a special person to respond to. I talked to my 10-year-old son about this a lot, in that we ask our firefighters and our police personnel to run toward situations, not away from them, and it takes a special amount of courage. With that, Chief, let's get started on these swearing-ins.
Thank you, Mayor, for recognizing the fallen officers from our agency. Thank you very much. Okay, good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Honda, members of the council. This evening, we'd like to take a few moments to publicly recognize and celebrate the promotion of 3 outstanding individuals and the appointment of 3 individuals to the position of corporal. These individuals have consistently demonstrated strong work ethic and principled leadership. They embody the core values of our agency and are certainly deserving of this recognition. First, we have Officer Chris Mickelson. He's being appointed to the position of corporal. Officer Mickelson is an 18-year veteran of law enforcement. While in Federal Way, he has worked in patrol, criminal investigations, with collateral duties as a bomb technician, field training officer, CPR instructor, and a member of the Total Station Crime Scene Mapping Team. Chris is a graduate of the FBI Hazardous School, FBI Post-Blast Investigation School, and the Advancing Leadership Class of 2014. I used to think Chris was a pretty smart guy until he wanted to become a bomb technician. Joining him here tonight is his wife Tanya, daughter Savannah, mother Laurel LaFawn, and father Dale Mickelson, retired captain from the Moscow, Idaho Police Department, and his stepmother Laura Mickelson. Pinning his badge tonight will be his best friend and wife, Tanya. Congratulations, Chris. Okay, next we have Officer Jedediah Tan. He's being appointed to the position of corporal. Officer Tan has 9 years of law enforcement experience, all of which has been with our department after being hired as an entry-level officer in February of 2009. He has worked patrol with collateral duties as a field training officer, Total Station Crime Scene Mapping Team member, and a member of our SWAT team. Jed has attained a Bachelor's of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from the Virginia Military Institute and a Master's in Business Administration from University of Washington. Joining him here tonight is his wife Carol and one of his sons, Noah. Micah, Jed's youngest son, is home sleeping because it's past his bedtime. Carol will be pinning on his badge. What a good-looking little boy there. All right, next we have Officer Grant Bassett. He's being appointed to the position of Corporal. Officer Bassett has 17 years of law enforcement experience and came to us in November of 2006 as a lateral officer from Texas. He has worked as a narcotics K-9 handler at his previous agency and in Federal Way as a contract services officer at the Commons, a traffic motor officer, and a detective working both persons and property crimes. Grant has asked his friend and coworker, Officer Chris Walker, to pin on his badge. Congratulations, Grant. Next, we have Detective Brian Klingel. Brian is being promoted to the rank of lieutenant. Detective Klingel has 22 years of law enforcement experience and is a founding member of our department, having come to us in September of 1996 as a lateral police officer from the Hoquiam Police Department. Brian has been a detective in our Special Investigations Unit, specializing in narcotics and human trafficking cases. He was also a corporal in patrol for 2 years until being selected to return to the Special Investigations Unit. Brian is a field training officer and a field training officer instructor. Brian has attained a Bachelor of Arts degree in criminal justice from the Washington State University. Brian's wife, Rochelle, was unable to attend tonight, and Brian has asked that I pin his badge. Okay, next we have Corporal Steve Wortman being promoted to the rank of lieutenant. Corporal Wortman has 24 years of law enforcement experience and came to us as a lateral police officer from California in October 2005 with detective, K-9, gang, and SWAT experience. As an officer in Federal Way, he has worked patrol and contract services at the Commons and was a field training officer. Steve was appointed to the position of corporal in January 2015, where he continued his field training officer responsibilities and was selected as a member of our major accident investigation team. Joining him here this evening is his wife, Christina, and his daughter, Caitlin. Christina will be pinning on his badge. Congratulations, Steve. Next, we have Lieutenant Tracy Grossnickel being promoted to the rank of Commander. Lieutenant Grossnickel has 26 years of law enforcement experience and is a founding member of our department, having come to us in January of 1997 as a lateral police officer from Colorado. As a lieutenant, Tracy has supervised patrol, the traffic unit, criminal investigations, and the Regional Auto Theft Task Force, school resource officers, and our animal service officers. And his collateral assignments include overseeing the Major Accident Investigation Team, Collision Review Board, Emergency Vehicle Operations Training, Honor Guard, and the Field Training Program. Lieutenant Grossnickel received the Supervisor of the Year Award in 2014. In addition, he has served as an executive board member on the Police Lieutenant Association for 9 years. Joining him here tonight is his wife, Karen, who is one of our record specialists, and he has 2 daughters here, Hannah and Tessa. Karen will be pinning on his badge. Standing here in front of you tonight is over 116 years of law enforcement experience combined. We're very excited for these individuals. Please join me in congratulating these individuals one more time. Corporals, if you can come on up. Corporals first, then lieutenants, and then commander.
Corporals, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name. Do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States and the state of Washington, and I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Washington and the laws and ordinances of the city of Federal Way, and will, to the best of my judgment, skill and ability, truly, faithfully, diligently and impartially, perform the duties of corporal in and for the city of Federal Way, King County, state of Washington, and as such duties prescribed by law. So help me God. Congratulations. Okay, now our lieutenants. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name. Do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States and the state of Washington, that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington, and the laws and ordinances of the city of Federal Way, and will, to the best of my judgment, skill and ability, truly and faithfully, perform the duties of lieutenant in and for the city of Federal Way, King County, Washington, and such duties as prescribed by law. So help me God. Congratulations. Commander, that's fun to say. We've worked together for years and years. This is a great day. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name. Do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States and the state of Washington, that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington, and the laws and ordinances of the city of Federal Way, and will, to the best of my judgment, skill and ability, truly and faithfully, diligently and impartially, perform the duties of police commander in and for the city of Federal Way, King County, Washington, and other duties as prescribed by law. So help me God. Thank you, Tracy. Okay. That's nice. That's very good. Congratulations, everybody. And to the families, thank you so much for coming. Right. Okay. All right. Now, before we go, we have some other presentations, but I told Councilmember Duclos that I was going to call on her. She's got a special thank you for a very special service that was done to help beautify our community in an area, the part of town that she lives in. Councilmember Duclos?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I really want to thank the people who go out and clean up graffiti that's put on out in different places. I walk my dog a lot around town and up in my area where I live, and there's a lot of fences because we have a lot of communities. And one day I was walking by and there was all kinds of, I believe it was gang graffiti on the fences. And I sent an email to City Hall about it. And the next time, about a week later, I was walking there and it was totally, totally gone. And this fence had been painted, kind of a strange color. And the color had been matched so perfectly by the graffiti people that you couldn't tell that there had been anything there and that it was I think they even aged the paint to make it look like it was there. And I just want to give my thanks to them for helping to keep our city free from things like this and keeping it beautiful. So please give my personal thanks to all of them, okay?
Will do, thank you. You know, they talk a lot about the broken windows philosophy, and you really have to be careful when you see graffiti that goes up, or a broken window, for instance, that if that gets addressed right away, it'll knock it down and you won't see it again, but if you allow that to stay up, it does really have. So, Brian, would you make sure you pass that along to our folks, and that the council member made special recognition? Okay. All right. And now, Arts Commission Municipal Court Student Art Contest winners. We're lucky to have Judge Larson and Judge Rebecca Robertson present. And please.
Hello, I'm Cassie Swan. I am the new Arts and Events Coordinator here with the city, and I have been fortunate enough to be working closely with the Arts Commission, and I am here tonight to present the most recent student art contest from the Municipal Court. And so I would like to present Jim Stiles, as he has a few words to say about this student art contest.
Good evening, Mayor Farrell, members of the council. Again, it's my privilege to be involved with the Arts Commission, and this particular event is something that I enjoy very much, just because of a chance to interact with the students, the folks who are here tonight, the families. In fact, a personal aside, we had a Lions Club presentation last night of scholarships and presentations of Student of the Year awards last night. So 2 nights in a row, we're celebrating our students, our scholars, and in this particular case, something near and dear to my heart, and hopefully the Municipal Court who sponsors this contest as well, and that is the contest whereby the kids, the students, the scholars are presenting their vision of what liberty means to them. And that's the theme of this. And so we had some great entries, and these are the winners. And so without further ado, I'd like to, again, thank the city and the judges, Judge Larson and Judge Robertson, who will be presenting the certificates to the winning students.
Great. Thank you, Jim and Cassie.
Thank you, Jim and Cassie. Judge Robertson and I are thrilled to be here. It's once a year we're here, but the Arts Commission works on this year-round, gets the entrance and everything else. So anybody that's on the Arts Commission, please stand and be recognized. So you can give them a round of applause. And, you know, the idea of liberty, I mean, right now in kind of our society, we're kind of losing sight of what liberty is. Like I always say, we're so interested in getting our way, we've lost our way. And liberty means simply it's based upon the power of love for our neighbor, not the love of power over our neighbor. And that's where we need to go with liberty. So the fact that these students are being asked to dig deep and create art that expresses that is very important to our existence, because liberty is important to us all. And without further ado, I'm going to, Judge Robertson always makes me talk, and she's going to hand out the certificates. She's a lot more photogenic too, so get the photographs. So what I'm going to do is start out with first place for the elementary level from Lakeland Elementary, Karin Nutter, 2nd grade. So Karin, come on up. And Karin's artwork is... And we'll have you just stay up here, Karin. And all these nice people, they're gonna congratulate you too in just a minute, okay? So in 2nd place in elementary is actually 2nd place is Colby Wigginton here. Colby Wigginton is not present, but that is Colby's artwork. And then next is Nee Tran, 3rd place elementary, and she goes to Rainier View Elementary. Nee, come on up. And I believe I found out from her mother that they've been here in the United States for 9 months, I think. Mom, 9 months? 9 months in the United States and already doing well in elementary. So congratulations, Nee. Next is first place in the middle school, and May is a back-to-back recipient. It may even be a three-fact, I think, maybe. But she is from first place, and she's from the Internet Academy in 7th grade. So May, congratulations.
This was her second submission.
Oh, that's her second submission? Oh, good. Excellent. Good job. Whoop. I'll just call the other person. Lainey Hong. Lainey Hong is second place, middle school, from Lakota. I'll forgive her. I found out that Cassie is a fellow Sacagawea attendee. Come on up. We both went to Sacagawea. She went there a couple years after me. So congratulations, Lanny. And I'm going to have their parents stand too and be recognized. Moms and dads. And that's the recipients we have this evening. The rest of them couldn't make it. But again, thank you, council, for allowing us to do this. This is we lose track of time sometimes. This is our 10th year doing this. We've been doing it since 2009. So very grateful to you and to the Arts Commission and to the city. And thank you, Mr. Mayor and council.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Your Honors. And congratulations, you guys.
Picture them all up there. You want a picture of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we do a big group picture? Yeah. Okay, so Tyler, how do you want us? Yeah, let's all come down.
Arts Commission members, come on up. And parents? So Karen, the rest of you. Come in a little bit, Public. Okay. All right. Ready? All right.
All right. Okay, now working our way to the next item, item C, Proclamation Public Works Week, May 20th, 26th. Deputy Mayor Honda.
Thank you. Would Marwan Saloom please come to the, oh, he's already there. Much faster than me.
He's fast.
I'll read the proclamation. National Public Works Week, May 20th to 26th, 2018. Whereas the American Public Works Association has celebrated the annual National Public Works Week since 1960, and whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities, and whereas public works professionals promote public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Federal Way, and whereas these infrastructures, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of Public Works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, our water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the City of Federal Way to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their communities. Now therefore, we, the undersigned mayor and city council of the City of Federal Way, do proclaim the week of May 20th to 26th, 2018 as Public Works Week in the City of Federal Way, and we urge our citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals and recognize the substantial contributions they make to protect our health, our safety, and our quality of life. Signed this 15th day of May, 2018.
Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Honda, and Council. On behalf of all of the Public Works Department, I would like to thank you for the proclamation and for all of your support in making sure that our Public Works staff are rebuilding our infrastructure, maintaining our infrastructure, and taking care of special event that sometimes it's out of our control, but we take care of it as it happened, from mudslide to snow and ice to windstorm, and therefore. So thank you for all of your support, and thank you for the proclamation. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Marwan. All right, now on to the Mayor's Emerging Issues and Report. We've got, with the suggestion of Councilmember Tran, and actually listening to the community and listening to all of the council members in their partnership, and with the continuous source of counsel I get from Councilmember Duclos as the chair of our FEDREC committee. I'm going to be employing in the internal process as we develop the budget before I turn it over to the council. I'll be employing a zero-based budget approach to really question and seek confirmation from each and every department director and their immediate subordinates that every employee, that every line item is gone through. It has been said at the last briefing, I thought it was very important that our finance director, Ade Irabulu, who's been working hand in hand with all of us, and especially with Councilmember Duclos for the past several years on this issue. I had Ade speak to the entire council and give a briefing, because what has, while we did fill that $854,000 gap that arose this year and fixed 2018, we're being advised, and Ade did advise us at the last city council meeting, that in order to balance the budget for 19 and 20 on our current trajectory, we'd have to go dip into strategic reserves for $1 million a year. We're not going to do that. And what that's going to require is for us to go, that I will do before I turn this budget over to the council in that process, and it's my statutory obligation to provide a balanced budget, and I'll do so. And I'm going to do so without dipping into strategic reserves. We already did that for $300,000 a year to balance just this year. So that's really going to take a great deal of attention to detail. It's going to require us to really question every assumption in the budget and make no assumptions in the budget. That's the entire purpose of zero-based budgeting. There was actually an individual named Peter Pyre from Texas Instruments in the late 1960s, early 70s, who came up with zero-based budgeting. Governor Jimmy Carter hired him to direct the State Office of Budget in the state of Georgia in the early 1970s. And Mr. Pryor then followed then President Carter to the federal system, where they approached that budget process from making no assumptions from the year before and making sure that we go through line by line and make sure that that there are no previous assumptions. It's going to be a difficult process. It'll be a time-consuming process. And then once we turn that budget over, in September, when I turn that budget over to the council, then we've been having a great set of discussions with the council about what that's going to take, because I think they're going to want to do the same thing. And they are an equal branch of government in this city government, and it's very important that that collaboration occur and they be given that opportunity. So there'll be a lot of, I'll be sitting down with the directors and their immediate subordinates, but I wanted to let everybody know that we're going to be adopting, that I'm going to be adopting that approach as we approach this budget. This is serious business, and we have an obligation to deliver core services to our community, and we're going to do that. And we're going to do that in a responsible manner, but we're also going to question everything. And make no assumptions. So we are so fortunate to have great directors, great city employees. When I meet with the city employees in this room, I often say that it used to be said that the roads and the infrastructure of the city are our greatest resource. And actually, I correct that all the time. I think it's the people who we ask to serve you here at City Hall, and the ambassador work that they do in the police department, in public works, in community development, in code enforcement, and all of the great works that's being done. And so we need to make sure that we do this in a manner that keeps the level of service at an excellent level, but also delivers that service in a manner which is fiscally responsible, and we're going to do that. Okay, so I just want to let you know that. I will update things as things go on. Performing Arts and Events Center, we have a project certification. I won't steal the headline here. EJ, would you please, our Deputy Public Works Director, EJ Walsh.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council. So it's my privilege tonight to bring to you notification that the Performing Arts and Events Center received its LEED certification. So this is a process that started way back when design was started. And has been following hand in hand throughout the design, throughout construction, and then throughout post-construction with all the certification and testing that goes once the building's actually done to make sure we've complied. So the building was certified as silver, and as you can see in front of you, here is a copy of the certificate that we received from the Green Energy Building, which is the LEED certification group. So just since this question's come up a couple of times, there's 4 levels of LEED certification. As part of the design, the direction from council was to go to the silver level. So, and that is what we did. And the PAEC was awarded 51 points. So we applied for a total of 56, and we received 51 of those points. So we met the silver certification. And a breakdown of the points is on the screen in front of you. And I won't go through each of them, but the key one was the sustainable site, and that is talks about reuse of a site, talks about reuse of a blighted property. It's reusing facilities, aka the paving and everything else that we did, the infrastructure that we could, to the greatest extent possible, and not reinventing the wheel. We also, the regional priority credits are localized credits, so they're the other 2 that I would point out, and those are hand in hand with the access to the transit center, the planning that has gone on at that point during the design phase, but was going on with sound transit in the city. So those are why we got those points. So in summary, it's a great achievement. It was a requirement of several of the grants that we received, as well as new market tax credit money, to achieve this. So it's a nice weight off my shoulders to be able to say that we've met that requirement of many of our funding agencies. So.
Great. Council, any questions? Councilor Moore?
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. EJ, I appreciate the update on this. This is something that was really important. It's always good to be good stewards of our environment and It's good that when the city can showcase that. Is there something at the PAEC that is framed or something that says that this building is, certified and, I believe, silver?
Yep, there will be. So we get a plaque that goes on the wall, and then we get copies of the certificates. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks to get those. So we don't
Okay.
have that yet. We have the notification and the electronic certificate that you saw, but there will be, yes.
Yeah, and can there be something there next to the plaque that says, what does this even mean?
Sure.
I think that would kind of help anybody understand, what this is and why it's important.
Sure.
So,
All right, Councilmember Duclos?
Having been through this process myself when at the multi-service center and receiving similar things, I know what the process is like, and I want to thank you very much for doing it and then for receiving it. And I think the plaque will hang in the Performing Arts and Event Center very, very nicely. So thank you for your work and the staff work on it.
Thank you.
Thanks, EJ.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, now, we've got quite a number of items to list out. I'll just tell you what's been going on. It's been very busy. Sometimes we go through periods in which there's not a lot going on the weekends, but boy, we've hit a busy patch, and this coming Saturday is going to be busy as well. We've got rolling pictures. Stephanie, our city clerk, usually asks, which picture do you want for the council meeting? There's so many things going on, we couldn't just pick one picture. And that's obviously of the farmer's market right there. That opened last week. So let me talk about what we've had. On May 9th, we had the Regional Gang and Gun Violence Coordination Meeting. That was an opportunity for all of the South County cities to talk about what's happening with regional and gang violence in our region and making sure that we're all on the same page in regard to ways to address that. Representatives from the King County Prosecutor's and U.S. Attorney's Office and the King County Sheriff are there as well, and our chief was there as well. And so it's a very important part of our partnership. That really started last year after the homicide that we had on Peck Highway and Dash Point Road, that young man that came off the Metro bus. And we gathered those folks together. That coordination and those partnerships continue. We had on May 10th at the Performing Arts and Event Center, I had the opportunity to greet and welcome and say a few words the Washington Emergency Communications Coordinating Working Group regarding catastrophic planning. Again, that happened at the Performing Arts and Event Center. I want to let you know that last August, 75 people from this community went to Emmitsburg, Maryland to prepare at the National FEMA Training Headquarters. And while there, we were training for a catastrophic subduction zone earthquake event. And those 75 employees were across the 4 local governments with the city, the fire department, the school district, Lake Haven, as well as our local hospital, St. Francis, and we also had the mayor, city manager, and representatives from Des Moines as well. So these kinds of conversations are very, very important to make sure that if and when an event occurs in our community, we are well-trained and ready to go. I'll have Ray Gross, our emergency manager, who spoke at this and gave a big presentation and also helped us while we were back at Emmitsburg. I'll have him give an update on some of the things that we're up to. We're always thinking about ways that we can be proactive looking forward. Then we had opening day of the farmers market, Saturday, May 12th. That was just this past Saturday. It was fantastic. Got the poster. It's up in the office now, and they always do a great job. And Becca from the Chamber of Commerce was the MC, and she always does a really good job. I have to tell you what I really enjoyed, I'm sure you guys did as well, is the dueling bands, the drum line from Thomas Jefferson High School and Decatur High School, and I think representatives of Federal Way High School were there as well. And I took a video for my son because they just did such an amazing job. They made a lot of noise, but it was fun. And we've got some very talented kids and young people in our community. Then we had upcoming community events. Tomorrow, we've got our second Neighborhood Connection, which is essentially a town hall meeting We did the first one at Twin Lakes about a month ago. This one tomorrow night at 6 p.m. is at Wildwood Elementary. Again, it's an opportunity. We call it Neighborhood Connection because we don't just show up and just, listen. What we want to do is show up with the department directors and make connections. And so the department directors and their immediate subordinates and a number of people, City Hall really comes out to that location. And if people have concerns or questions, or they can get a briefing about, what's going on with the police department or Public Works. Marwan will have a presentation, and I'll talk about different things going on. This time it'll be probably focused on the budget and what we're doing there. So that's tomorrow night, 6 p.m., Wildwood Elementary. Hope you can make it. And we will have an open mic. The goal is sometimes we try to get these our presentations over as soon as we can to make sure that we can do the most important thing, which is to hear from the public. And so that's, and then we televise those meetings on Channel 21. The one from Twin Lakes Elementary, I think just went on, where's Tyler? Is it up now? It's going to go on Channel 21 here pretty quickly. So, and that's a great opportunity to hear these presentations. And that it runs probably multiple times during the week. All right, let's see. We've got Federal Way Coalition Against Trafficking Break the Chains 5K. That's this Saturday, May 19th. We've got Touch a Truck also this Saturday at 11 a.m. Actually, I think Break the Chains gets started about 9:30. That's when it starts, but you need to get there early to get registered, and that's the Federal Way Coalition Against Trafficking. It's a great organization that does absolutely just great work about freeing people from that horrible industry and trap, and I can't even call it industry. It's horrible. So I think that the Federal Way CAT is a great organization in this community. Touch a Truck is a really fun thing, especially little kids love it, and frankly, big kids love it too. It's kind of fun to see all those trucks. That's at the former Target parking lot right next to the Performing Arts and Event Center. Again, that starts at 11 a.m. John Dexter, do you have a presentation on Touch a Truck?
Just very brief, sir, if you'd like.
I know, I think I stole your presentation, but go ahead.
I'll be very brief. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of council, you may not have heard yet, but we're having Touch a Truck this weekend. So it's going to be a great event. It is a lot of fun. Kids of all ages, as the mayor said, love it. We have a sensory hour. The first hour is no horns. The rest of the day is very, very noisy. So if you want to hear it quiet, come up. Or if you have kids that don't like loud noises, or adults that don't like loud noises, come during the first hour. We have just great participation. The whole premise of the event is kids of all ages love big vehicles, and we're here to teach them that these are the vehicles that build and protect our communities. And so it's a lot of fun. We got great participation from police, from fire, Public Works, Parks and Recreation. They all love the lawnmowers that we bring out. It's just a great, fun event. We also have a fundraiser where you can smash a car, so bring your cash for a little smash of a car. That raises money for the American Cancer Society. So it's just a ton of fun. It's a really fun, quick event. Great day for moms and dads and all kids. So love to have you there.
The SWAT vehicle is there.
SWAT vehicles there. They usually bring the robot and all the toys.
Right.
Fire department's bringing the jaws of life. They always cut a car up, and so it's great fun for everybody. It's really a good time, and the weather's supposed to be perfect. So love to see you there.
It's usually hard to keep track of my little guy when we take him there. He's all over. So it's
Both
a lot.
of you are hard.
That's right, exactly. Hey, that's your outside voice. Hey, so Councilmember Johnson, do you have a couple things to announce?
Yes, so this Saturday, May 19th, is the second annual Celebration of Diversity Block Party from Thomas Jefferson High School, led by their BSU. So there'll be civic engagement workshops, a resource fair, a lot of food and family and fellowship, also some live performances from some of our youth, so it should be a great event. Also, on June 11th, we have the Federal Way Youth Forum. So this is an event that local media group Rugged Genius, we actually have a founding member in the audience tonight, Lamont, started this year. And so they're going to be doing a youth forum at Decatur High School Monday, June 11th, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. I'll be assisting with that. And so it should be a great event to really hear from the youth around some of their ideas for the city, trying to help promote diversity and also collaboration. And I think that, it'll raise a lot of consciousness for our young folks and also our community around what matters to them. So it should be a great event. Hope all the city leadership and community can attend.
Great, thank you, Councilmember Johnson. Deputy Mayor Honda.
Thank you. This Saturday is also the Blue Poppy Day, which is at the Federal Way Rotary Gardens. And it's co-sponsored by the Federal Way Arts Commission. This has been a long-running tradition to sponsor this program or something similar to this program with our Arts Commission and the Rhododendron Gardens. It's free, and it starts at 10, goes till 4. There's artists in the park, and there's also food trucks. We have a performance of the Federal Way Youth Symphony at 11, and a performance by another group from 1 to 3. What is really awesome about this event is that it's all centered around the blue poppy now. And if you don't know what the blue poppy is, it's a poppy, which is blue. There's a whole, well, no, poppies are usually orange. Okay. There's a whole garden now, which started a few years ago, but there's a whole garden now in the, at the gardens, at the Rhodey Gardens with the blue poppies, and they're absolutely beautiful. So please go and see, and you can also go into the Bonsai Museum the same time, which is also free to the public. So please come and support our gardens. We are so lucky that we have this in our city, because this is an internationally run program, and we are really, really fortunate that we have it.
Great. Okay, so we've thrown a lot of events at you for this coming Saturday. So if you have any questions, contact either the council or my office, and we can make sure that we get you chapter and verse in regard to when these events start and all of that. But a lot of great events this weekend. Hope you can make it. All right, and now for the most important part of the evening, citizen comment. Dana Holloway, you are first, and I'll let the next couple people know who is on deck. We've got on deck is John Vreek, Bob Dockstetter, Helen Martin.
Good evening, Dana Holloway. Where's the money coming from? I'll be the first to admit reading and trying to understand the city budget isn't my idea of a fun time. Sorry, Ade. However, I do think it is important. Actually, it's critical, because everything the city does or doesn't do is tied to budget, revenue, and expenditures. Where is the money coming from for whatever public goods, services, operations, capital projects that are being proposed, such as more police, the 4th of July celebration and fireworks, clearing snow and ice from roads, city parks, picking up the shopping carts around the city, et cetera, et cetera. When residents or elected officials talk about doing or providing anything, the first question that should be asked and answered is, where's the money coming from for whatever is being proposed? How are you going to pay for it? Remember, government entities do not have any of their own money. Everything that they have is taxpayer funded. So everything the city does or provides, it will be paid for by taxes or fees levied on taxpayers. There is no free lunch. I request a process change that whenever the city approves expenditures, such as on the city council agenda bills, ordinances, consent agendas, etc., the city will identify on that document where in the biennium budget the money will come from, specifically the fund, category, and department division, such as general fund, public works, street systems. This request specifically supports the city's physical integrity policy as stated on page A8 of the 2017-2018 biennium budget. Quote, the city will adopt a balanced budget for all funds. Balanced budget for operating funds means ongoing operating program cost not to exceed the amount of the ongoing revenues to finance those costs. The ongoing revenue will be identified along with new program costs, including impacts from new capital projects, unquote. I'm getting into the budget. And on the lighter side, my husband didn't like this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. What did the mama cow say to the baby cow? It's past your bedtime. Past your bedtime? Thank you.
I got it, Dana. All right, and Dana, what we'll do is I'm going to have a day follow up with you in regard to exactly where those items can be located in the current budget. And we're going to, we'll have a day. Can you please follow up with Ms. Holloway tomorrow? All right, thank you. Okay, John Vreek, then Bob Duckstetter.
Oh, thank you. It's a privilege to be here, and I'm here to talk about Center Stage. My name is John Vreeke, and that's okay. I have a 40-year career as a professional stage director. I'm a longtime company member with the Woolly Mammoth Theater Company in Washington, D.C., one of the most cutting-edge and influential theaters in the country. For Center Stage, I've directed A Woman in Black a few years ago, and more recently, this season, I directed Dead Man's Cell Phone. My home is in Seattle. My interest in Center Stage is in the opportunities that the new management of Ms. Duvall and Ms. Baylor have committed to. I've been asked to briefly talk about what theater can do for a community, and I have 4 quick points to make. Number 1, let's talk about greater opportunities for greater investment in people and communities of color. The Latino and Korean American communities are prominent in Federal Way, I understand, and opening the doors for opportunities to tell their unique stories in powerful ways will give us all a sense of our common humanity. I have seen evidence of this effort to diversify Center Stage community. It isn't just talk. Number 2, the opportunities to mentor young adults, high school students primarily, who get a chance to work backstage and in the chorus, are mentored by gifted and committed adult artists. Center Stage offers a professional experience for youngsters looking for guidance and motivation. These early opportunities create lasting impressions on impressionable young people. Trista and Angela have placed these 2 objectives on top of their list and have accomplished these with respect and compassion for all involved. Number 3, building the audience and creating a strong statewide and even national reputation for Federal Way and Center Stage. The key to sustainable audience growth is guaranteeing that the work on stage has great integrity and compelling theatrical event and can stand up to anything produced in regional theater throughout the country. Dead Man's Cell Phone was as strong and as compelling and sophisticated as anything I've seen in this area or worked on. Not to get too pie in the sky, but creating excellence by guaranteeing that hard work, talent, and commitment goes into every production will grow your audiences and create a reputation that will draw people in from beyond the geographical boundaries of Federal Way. Bringing people in from Seattle, from Tacoma, and beyond will contribute to the growing life of the theater culture at Center Stage and in Federal Way. Ashland, Oregon, where the Oregon Shakespeare Festival happens, for example, draws thousands of people from all around the world. This didn't happen overnight, but it started as a tiny, tiny little theater. And then number 4, finally, by supporting, nurturing, and defining the idea that is the new Center Stage, the audiences will be surprised by the unpredictable, compelling, thought-provoking, and often emotional theater experience. This will create energetic, passionate engagement with friends and family members who shared the experience of seeing live theater done in a powerful and intensely personal manner. Experiences that stay with you, that resonate for days and weeks after, and maybe even has a positive effect on your life. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Dockstader, and then after that, Helen Martin, and then Angela Baylor.
Thank you, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Honda, City Council, staff, citizens. My name is Bob Dockstetter. I am the immediate past president of the Board of Center Stage and a current member of the Board of Center Stage. And I'd like to follow up a bit on John's remarks and talk a bit in a way about current activities at Center Stage to serve the community through its programs and partnerships with education and at-risk youth. Imagine, if you will, there's a young man who's being homeschooled, but his teacher, alleged teacher, sleeps, hands him a video game, and eventually he's tested and found he's not going to be homeschooled anymore. He goes to school, but he's he's a 5th grade age, but he tests at basically 1st grade level. So he's put in 1st grade. Then there's a divorce. He is placed with his parent, who gets involved in a house full of drugs. One day, he sees his mother being brought out of the bedroom in a body bag from a drug overdose. Now he's with the father, who is a good guy, but he's working long hours trying to keep food on the table. And this, I think, if I were a police officer, and if I was even a rookie or a police officer with decades of experience like Chief Andy would say, this is likely a kid we're going to see and not in a context that we want to see him. But it turns out that he has some artistic interest. Turns out he has not only drawing interest, but he gets into a high school in our fair city and gets involved with drama. He gets involved with the drama class. Then he gets involved with our Page to the Stage program. He reads the plays. He meets the author. He meets the actors. He sees behind the stage. Now, I'm not saying that our program solved his issues or will solve his issues, but here's a kid that could not look you in the eye, could only hang his head, and now he's excited about his life. He looks you in the eye. This is what we want to do for the youth of Federal Way. Our programs are far beyond what we present on the stage. Our programs are designed to provide a service to this community, to be part of the vision of this community as a better community. The city's support of Center Stage has been critical and will be critical. It's an investment. And incidentally, this is not a hypothetical. This happened in my own family. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. All right, Helen Martin, and then Angela.
Good evening, Federal Way City Council. My name is Helen Martin, and I am a professional actor and teaching artist. I'm also a parent of a child being educated within the public school system of South King County. I have a bachelor's degree in English and creative arts, and my specific focus within that course of study was theatre and education. Theatre and education is my area of expertise, and that's why the work of Center Stage Theatre is so important to me. Center Stage Theatre provides to the community more than simple entertainment, but through the new artistic direction of Trista Duval-Wilkinson, they've expressed a commitment to education through theatre that makes Center Stage Theatre a vehicle for societal change. One of the ways that we see their commitment to education through theatre is with their high school performance internship program. The production that they're rehearsing right now has a full cast of professional actors, as well as 6 Federal Way area teens who are working on this production. They are working alongside professional actors. They are working at the professional caliber, a caliber that they would not have opportunity to experience within their schools. They are getting professional credits on their resume, on their theatrical resume that they take with them throughout the rest of their career, giving them such a head start in the industry. Now, within the greater Seattle area, there are plenty of such programs, but they are by and large tuition-based. Families are required to spend hundreds of dollars so that their children can participate in one production. Center Stage is noteworthy because this is free to these students of Federal Way. There is no cost for them to get this caliber of education, which makes it accessible to low-income families who would otherwise not have access to this caliber of arts education. In the upcoming season, Center Stage also will be unrolling a Page to Stage program where they'll bring great works of literature to life on their stage. And in a new move for Center Stage Theatre, these productions will happen during school hours, allowing students and teachers to experience these productions together. Again, there are such professional theatre companies up in Seattle doing such things. But if traffic is good, that's perhaps a 45-minute drive from here, and I think it is so important for the students of Federal Way to have access to something like that in their own neighborhood. Having Center Stage as a resident professional theater company here increases the accessibility for our youth. Now, in light of the comments that Councilmember Johnson made earlier, I know that the youth of Federal Way are important to you and arts access is important to you. So I just ask that as you move forward in interactions with Center Stage, you keep in mind that they are more than simple entertainment. They are a force for societal change, and they give back to this city so much more than they have been given. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight.
Thank you. Angela Baylor, and then David Monteith, Michael Barclay, Peggy Darling, and Lynn Idosa Berry. Angela?
Good evening, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and council members. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for engaging with us after our last time here. I don't know how it worked, but we were able to sit down and talk with John Hutton and Rob Ettinger and all that. So we really appreciate the city's effort in allowing us to talk and to hopefully come to some agreement. So I just want you to know how much we appreciate that. I also want you to know that this actual experience has really strengthened us as an organization. I was going to talk about the programming, but my predecessors have really hit on that. But for 40 years, Center Stage has been a part of the community, and it's been a part of the fabric of Federal Way. And over the past year, we have really instituted an organizational turnaround. I've been there since July of 2016. Trista Duvall has been there since July of 2017. So we are working on changing the culture of our organization. And part of that is we want to help Federal Way become a stronger, safer, more enjoyable community through building the arts' presence in the community through a variety of programs, which you've heard about Page to the Stage. We believe that a strong community has a strong arts program, and that reflects the citizens, and that is a strong arts program that reflects the citizens is a healthy community. With that in mind, we have expanded our programming past just putting on the shows at the theater. We did mention Page to the Stage, the high school internship programs. This year, we have also, with the help of grants, been able to offer free and reduced tickets to senior citizens, to low-income families, and to high school students. We have a policy that any high school student that shows up with a high school ID gets into our show for free, whether we have grant funding or not. So that's how firmly we believe in the power of the arts. We are also currently developing a program to target youth violence by integrating theater with job training for at-risk youth. We are investigating the Violence Prevention Coalition, and we're also we're exploring partnership with Rugged Genius Positive Media Group in order to help actually reach those. So we're not just saying we're doing this, we're working on being in that population. We're also exploring and hope to offer, hopefully next season, if we can continue, a Shakespeare for Veterans program that is based off of a program in Kentucky. We also would like to, if we are able to remain in the space with a good agreement that works for both of us, both the city and for Center Stage, we want to start offering dementia-friendly programming for dementia patients and their caregivers, and also sensory-friendly programming for patrons with autism, for example. These are just a few of the programs we have in the works. As I said, we have instituted an organizational turnaround. We have increased our ticket sales. Last year, they ranged between 12 and 42% house sold. This year, we range between 20 and 56% house sold. We've quadrupled our season tickets. So we know that we are on a trajectory to gain financial independence, but we just ask that you give us the time to get there so that we can be a better part of the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. David Monteith.
Good evening. I'm the president of the board for Center Stage. Everybody else has taken all the good stuff. So as an engineer, I get the numbers. Sorry about this. But Angela talked about how we're having a turnaround. That's also financial. We have looked hard at where our budget comes from and where things are going. And 2 years ago, we determined we have to wean ourselves off of the management fee that we've been receiving from the city. It's not fair to us and it's not fair to you. So our only problem is we're on a 4-year project. 4-year program was what we had scheduled. We're through the first year, we're actually making progress. So right now, we have a $100,000 management fee. Of that, about $30,000 of it goes to utilities, janitor, minor maintenance. That leaves about $70,000. That's about 20% of our overall budget. Cutting that immediately is a problem for us. The rest of our budget, over 55% of that budget, is going to paying for the actors, paying for the staff, is basically going to people. And then the overhead things that any theater or business has. So I guess what I'm trying to say is cutting the management fee is actually in our plan, and we want to be able to do that. And we understand your budget concerns for the city. We also have similar budget concerns for ourselves. So we're trying to work with that, and we're, of course, talking with John Hutton and everyone. I should say, I don't think I said this. We are paying all those actors that and the staff. That's 135 people a year we're paying, that we're bringing in to do their love of theater and helping them to do that. We're not paying a lot, but it's a stipend to help them to get through. We do have some full-time employees, Angela in particular, and Trista is a part-time. We can, like I said, we're trying to get rid of that management fee, but we are having problems with also the idea of having to pay rent. Part of our current contract, we do get to use the facility. If we go to the state where we lose the management fee and we start paying rent, and a significant rent, we are not going to be able to feasibly stay at Dumas Bay, at the Knutson. That's a sad fact, but I think it's something that everybody has to understand. We are determined, we want to try to stay here in Federal Way. That's why we're all here. But we understand where you're coming from, and I think you need to understand where we're coming from also.
Thank you, David.
So thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. All right, Michael Barclay, and then Peggy Darling.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here to speak to you about Center Stage. For me, Center Stage is a really important and hidden feature, treasure of Federal Way. I've been a subscriber for over 12 years, missed only one performance in the last 12 years. It's been a great opportunity to go and see the shows. I've had some bad days, and I've gone there to see the performances with the staff, the volunteers, the performers. I've always come away feeling great. It's a wonderful experience there to go there and thrive in seeing the performances and stuff. It's a great feature. It's meant so much to me that I have actually contributed my time to Center Stage and actually been one of the elite top donors to Center Stage over the years and continue to do it. And I'm so privileged that I can have a company that actually matches my donations to Center Stage. I've actually brought people from outside the community to Puyallup, Tacoma, even as far as Olympia. I've had a few friends from Southern California that have come up to see the performances. They've been very pleased with the performances that we have here. And where else can you go to get semi-professional plays for a fraction of the cost that's being offered? You can go to Seattle, you can go to Issaquah, but you've got great performances here locally, and a lot of the residents here are really enjoying Center Stage. I very much prefer Center Stage to stay here and continue for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Peggy Darling. And then Lynn, Idahosa Berry, and then Bill Darling, and then Mike Hunter.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Peggy Darling, and I am here also in support of Center Stage as a resident of Federal Way. And we've only lived here 6.5 years, and because of Center Stage, it really feels like home. I love the theater. I grew up in a very small town in Michigan, and we had our own little tiny theater, and I've just been in love with it ever since. And we went to our first show, was Tommy, in 2012, and we've been to every single one since. And we give as much as we can to help them. And physically, I've been helping paint this week and last week, and I do anything to help keep this theater. If you haven't gone to see a show, I don't know how you can make any decision about it until you do. I also have emailed all of you to tell you just what it means to me, this theater. And I appreciate so much, the two of you, Mr. Kopang and Mr. Johnson, that you responded to me, so I knew that it got through to somebody, and somebody listened. And I could go on for hours and hours just telling you how wonderful the people are and the friends I've met, and just please, please come to a show. And before you make any decisions, there's so much that goes on. They are so professional. It's wonderful, and it's so much better. I went to my first show in Seattle. I don't know where it was, Fifth Avenue maybe, but it's so huge. You can't even see the actors. And this year, it's so intimate, and it's so family-friendly, and it's just, you're part of it almost because you're so close to the actors and the action. And it's just, I just was losing interest in the big theater because there was too many people and so much going on, and I couldn't see the people on the stage, really. Maybe I should get better seats, but you can't always do that. But anyways, please, please, please come to a show before you make any decisions, and I hope you see in your heart to keep this. I call it Federal Way's hidden gem, because it truly, truly is a gem that this city has that everybody needs to go to, and I get everybody that I can to go to it. And please, and I want to thank you for saying where the old Target parking lot is, because a lot of things say it's in the old Target parking lot. I had no idea where the old Target parking lot was, so thank you for saying that.
Great, thank you
Have a
very
good
much.
evening.
All right, thank you, Peggy. All right, Lynn Idahosa Berry.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. My name is Lynn Idahosa Berry, and I'm a resident of Federal Way, as well as a PCO, a Precinct Committee Officer for the 30th District here. But tonight, the views I share with you are mine alone. Last month, I attended this meeting and silently observed, but since then, I've had the opportunity to reach out to some of you and other city officials, and I appreciate all your advice and support and answering of my questions. I also submitted additional public records requests, but I received one number that was really important from the chief, which is 1. That's the number of racial bias complaints that have been filed in the last 4 years, according to his report to the committee last week in Federal Way. But I would like to explore that number and what that encompasses more, and explore what that means to residents like myself. To be honest, I find it a little difficult to believe, because it would mean that it only represents the family that I'm here representing. I'm aware of the Civil Service Commission, but the city attorney was kind enough to point out to me before this meeting that that isn't the type of commission that actually reviews police accountability. So the question I proposed to the committee last week, and I want to also propose to the council, is since there isn't currently a police accountability review board that reviews possible misconduct, would the city of Federal Way be open to creating one with non-paid committee members? And if that answer to that question is no, then why? And I'd also like to ask that this council consider including this committee in the yearly Federal Way Police Department's review of racial bias training planning. I appreciate all the willingness to work together as a community to solve and review this, the way things are done here in our city, and to ensure that these issues that are constant problems nationwide don't become a problem here in our backyard in Federal Way. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you very much. Bill Darling. Then Mike Hunter, then Sonetta Hunter, and Dennis Stiles.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Bill Darling. I've been resident of Federal Way now for almost 7 years. And one of the things we've loved most about this area is the theater over here, and that's Center Stage. And you've heard a lot about that tonight. What I really want to say was thank you. I came to the last council meeting, there was a whole lot of people here for Center Stage, and I heard many, many members stand up for Center Stage and say how important it is, and we ought to really get into negotiations on this. And that's what you've done over since the last meeting. I don't know how often you hold a meeting, because I'm really bolstered by what I heard at that time. I want to thank everybody for that. I know my wife wrote to a couple of people on the board, and they responded, and I thought that was wonderful, because when you talk about responding to the community, I'm beginning to see that happen with this board. You heard about all the good things about Center Stage, and I don't want to go on about that, but it's been really important to us in this community. We have not missed a performance in the 7 years, and when we lived in Florida, we were between 2 very large theaters, in Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach, and we went to 1 theater performance in 30 years of being down there. That's the good things I wanted to say. There was one other thing, because I think you missed an opportunity, and that's not with Center Stage, but that is with the budget. I heard you talking about the budget a little while ago. I heard about it last time I was here, and at one point into it, there was a gentleman up here, and I don't know what authority he got or where he came from, but he gave the board carte blanche in the way of raises for everybody. First of all, I want to say, I think you all deserve a lot more than he gave you, especially when you compare it to the other cities. And all you have to do is sit in a few board meetings here, you realize how tough your job is. For over 20 years, I was past president of a homeowners association in Florida, and it was the most ungrateful position I ever held. And so I know you're all in for it on everything. I listened to everybody come up here, and these people, I believe, spoke last time at the meeting, and my heart goes out to them, because it's a tough decision, which you stand on one side, the physical responsibility of the community, and at the same time, you've got a police force that does a tremendous job here, and I'm glad to see you're supporting them by bringing on more people, too. But I think you missed one big opportunity. I would love to see somebody stand up last week and say, are you crazy? You're going to give us a raise when we're missing $800,000 in our budget? If I did that at work, guess where I would be? I would be on one of these corners down here with my cup. But I know you all have a tough job, and you do a good job. But I would like to see somebody stand up and say, at our next meeting, I make a motion that we overrule whatever's going on here. I don't know who gave that committee all that authority, but I think it came from the board. And I think you missed an opportunity to tell the community, hey, this is what we stand for, and we're going to stand up right now. We're not going to accept it. We're going to go on and make sure that our budget balances. That's a big responsibility. You do a great job, though. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I would say, actually, Bill, in direct response to your question, there's been a lot of misinformation about this. We have an independent salary commission. It's actually, it's not legal for elected officials to decide their salary. And we actually, there's an independent salary commission that makes decisions based on quite a number of factors, one of which is the state of our budget, one of which is comparables with other jurisdictions. But we don't have myself or the city council doesn't have the authority. It's illegal for us to reduce our salaries. Now, whether we would it's important that we not go, I wanted to give you an answer, get everybody else an answer.
I'm glad you did.
But we're not going to go into back and forth. But you know, that invites politicking with public salaries. The elected officials, frankly, it's been pointed out in the local paper that elected officials can give back that portion of their salary. Frankly, what that does is it insults the citizens that we asked to serve and have served in the thankless job of working in the independent salary commission. But what it also does is set up an artificial and very political response, because how long is that elected? The elected officials that serve in these roles are temporary occupants of these roles. I will not be mayor forever. Everybody up here is passing through on these positions. And so these are the positions that represent the community. And so it is improper for us to weigh in on our salary. That's why we delegated, and that's why that responsibility has been delegated to a separate and independent body. And so we're not going to go back and forth. I just wanted to let you know that. And so there's been some politicking, there's been some comments made in the media, but frankly, it has nothing to do with anything. It has to do with the law. And so I just want to let you know that. Okay, thank you.
Wait, I just want to say something. But there was a recommendation. Council members do not have to accept the recommendation. And I personally have written the finance director that I do not want to accept a raise in my paycheck.
Well, okay, by law, you will be taxed on what you receive. You will receive it. You have every right to give it back. But you don't have, actually, the elected officials don't have a right not to receive it. You actually, by law, have been designated to receive this.
That's a recommendation.
No. Ryan?
No, technically it is not a recommendation. It's just like an ordinance that's been passed. So when they act and vote on it, it becomes basically the will of the city. So the mayor is correct in that you can donate it back to the city, and that's what we're arranging, or even waive it. But it doesn't change the fact that the set salary for that position.
Well, if we donate it to the city, do you get to take that off as a donation on your taxes?
I couldn't possibly tell you. I'm not a tax attorney.
But that we did this so we would remove them.
I was told that we didn't have to accept the recommendation because it's only a recommendation.
No. This board cannot act on our salaries. It's unconstitutional. Deputy Mayor Honda?
I would say that we can donate it back to the city, but we are still taxed on it, and there were several of us that did donate it back to the city as council members. But it's a private decision that each council member can make. And it's just a personal thing, so, but we will be taxed on it. You're correct.
Right. And the position will then be paid, whoever occupies that position will be paid that salary. And the council member or the occupants of these offices, it'll be up to them on when they decide to stop giving that back. But again, the entire idea of an independent salary commission is to remove the politics from this. And we had volunteer citizens who we selected to serve in these roles to make these decisions. I just want to make sure that's clear. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. Mike Hunter. And then we've got Sonetta Hunter. So I see we've.
Tell me to define your time. You can tell me to define your time.
I want to defer my time.
We don't actually.
Okay.
You know what? Let's do this though. Let's combine it to. We go 3 minutes. Let's go. You know what? All right. In this, let's do a total of 6 minutes. How's that? Okay. 6 minutes, please.
Good evening once again to the council members. We appreciate another opportunity to address you all. And before I get into my comments, I just want to say to the chief of police that we were in a meeting with you last week, and we appreciate the comments that you had to make. And we believe that the statements that you made applies to the vast majority of your officers, while not all of them, but certainly a vast majority. But unfortunately, one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. As I mentioned last month when we were here, that we are not interested in a battle with the city of Federal Way. We are interested in hopefully finding some solutions to some of the issues with the few members of the police department. The judge has asked us to talk and try to settle this case. And the city has said that no, we don't want to talk. We want to go to trial. And we just don't understand that. How does that benefit the citizens of Federal Way? Just spend their money throwing it into the system rather than an attempt to make our son whole. Without negotiating, without talking to us, you don't even know what we want. So why would you say no to something you don't even know what we want, which is his attorney's fees? And so, Mr. Call, you sent word to us through our attorney that us coming here was not going to make a difference. And you boast and say that to this mother who is standing on behalf of her child like any mother would, that her word doesn't mean anything. What I have to say is not going to change anything. Well, sir, that sounds very prideful to me. Mm-hmm. And where do people even treat people that way? Yeah. I'm not coming here raising a fuss, creating a scene. I'm just asking to have a conversation with you. Exactly. And for the record, we are making a difference. Yeah. Every time we come here, one of these voters come up to us afterwards, and they tell us, we're so sorry, we didn't know. Keep telling your story. We're praying for you. So we are making a difference. Yeah. We're not called to be comfortable. We're called to make a change. Yeah. And to the council members, I have to say to you as well, several of you have said to us, we can't talk to you because there's a lawsuit. But the truth is, that's not true. Yeah. The judge has asked us to negotiate. So you are not prohibited from talking to us. The court has asked us to have a conversation. You were put on this council because you have a voice. If you don't have a voice, why would you sit there? That's like when the stores say, oh, our policy won't allow us to give you a refund. When they know good and well, they can work within that policy and do the right thing. And that's what we're asking you to do. We've all been there. We have a policy. Come on now. And all I would say about that is, you won't be able to say you didn't know. You can say, we should have done something, we should have looked into this further, we could have prevented further tragedies, but you will not be able to sit there as council members and say you didn't know. We handed out some packets of information to each one of you. Those packets contain a small amount of reports, information that we received from the city itself, One of the things I find interesting is on the first page, the code of conduct for the police officers. And it says, members shall not engage in any conduct on or off duty which adversely impacts the good order, morale, efficiency, public respect, or confidence in the police service. That's not what happened on September 14th. Also in your packet, you have statements by Officer Smith, who was one of the other officers involved in the situation where my son was choked.
Senator, can I just interrupt? Can you stop the clock for a second? Can we, actually, our council rules do call out, let me just, I don't want to take your time, but our council rules do call out that we shouldn't, your council comments should be directed generally to us, but let's not get into, the council rules actually call for not getting into individuals who actually work for the city. So I don't want to stifle your public comment, and I don't want to, I just want to let you know that it may not be fair to get into, the particulars of a particular case. So I hope that doesn't, if you've got prepared remarks, it doesn't mess this up. But I want to make, we've got, are we still stopped? Are you able to stop the clock? Okay. So I just want to make sure that I don't have to interrupt you again, but we want to protect the integrity of the process. Does that make sense?
So you're referring to if I say the officer said this or the officer did that?
Yeah, I think when we start referring them to individual officers, I was going to, when you directed comments directly to Ryan before our city attorney, we actually don't, the rules don't actually technically allow that, but I wanted to let you, say your piece. So I think it's, the comments are meant to be general comments to the whole council. I try not to be overly legalistic or ruleistic, but I want to make sure that I respect those boundaries. So can you let's, you want to just take a second and figure that out, and let's maybe start in 5 seconds. Okay. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it's going to be a little difficult to not give specifics. And frankly, Jim, this is, excuse me.
That's okay.
Your Honor.
No, I'm
Mayor,
Jim.
whatever I'm supposed to call you. I've known him for over 20 years, so he's Jim to me. But this is why I want to have a conversation, because if we can't voice what's happened here,
so now,
what do you do?
How would you characterize, what message did you want to deliver with this transcript? What is the bottom line about the transcript that you wanted us to know?
Well, the bottom line is I wanted the council to know that these things are not my opinion. These are public information over these officers' behavior. It's not what I think about them. It's what actually happened based on some of the documentation that I provided.
And what do you think happened?
That
injustice.
Yeah.
Injustice has happened, and if injustice has happened, then we as parents and we in this community, I work in this community, my son's gone to school in this community, and I expect to either get some kind of consideration where we sit down and have a conversation like the judge said, and not just get pushed aside and then be told that what we say is not going to make a difference. Then that says that really this council doesn't mean anything to this city.
Okay,
that's an insult.
I'm not going to interrupt you guys anymore, so go ahead. Go ahead, continue.
So, like I said, that's the whole point. The judge asked us to negotiate, and nobody would tell us why we can't negotiate. We are not interested in going to trial. We want some change. Yes. Our son was not resisting. He was assisting that night, and nobody would give us an opportunity to have a conversation about that.
Yes.
And you got to think about that. My son's sitting in the back of the police car. One of the officers, without naming names, a drunk man stumbles over to the car. He's bamming on the car, trying to get the officer's attention. They shush, go away, go away, go away. The man won't go away, go away, go away. The man won't go away. He finally stumbles off. They let him walk off.
And
they didn't know if he was going to get in the car. They didn't know if he was going to go in the store and harass the clerk. They weren't interested in him. But these two 21-year-old black males had to get arrested. They were assisting that night. They were not resisting. And so just think about it if it was you or your son. And if the first thought just came to your mind, it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be my son.
That's right.
Why? Because I'm not black? If that was your first thought, you know exactly what happened that night. And so we're asking for a conversation. And if you're not going to give us a conversation, at least tell us why. We're not interested in going to trial because I'm going to keep coming back down here. I'm going to keep making, next I'm going to be knocking on doors.
Yes.
Because this needs to be addressed.
Yes.
And we're not going to let it sweep under the rug.
No.
Again, we're not called to be comfortable.
No.
We're called for change, and we're going to continue to stand for what's right. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Thank you, Michael and Sonetta.
Mayor, I feel like I need to correct a couple things.
Yeah, let's do this. So there are just a couple of factual issues that Ryan's going to get into, and Ryan, can you maybe give a broad picture about kind of where we're
Well,
at?
I don't want to get in, this is a subject of pending litigation. It's highly inappropriate to come and try to litigate the case in a public forum. That's what court is for. But I do want to address two things particularly. One, I've never had any personal communications with either the Hunters or their attorney. We have litigation counsel that handles that. And we sat through an 8-hour mediation with a paid mediator and tried to mediate this case. So the idea that we haven't been communicating with them is not accurate. So they need to speak through their attorney and handle this through their attorney. That is how these things are handled.
And what is the status of the litigation right now? There were a number of claims, and now there's how many left, and when's the trial date?
So it's scheduled for trial in, I believe, July. Originally, there were several claims, including wrongful arrest. Those claims were dismissed. So what remains is for a jury to determine if the amount of force that was used was lawful when they were arrested. But the judge has already ruled that the arrest itself was, in fact, legal. So that's the one issue left.
Okay. Michael and Sonetta, thank you so much for coming. And, we're praying for you, too. These matters are difficult. We appreciate you coming. I wanted to make sure you guys got a platform. I also want to make sure that we abide by these rules. We'll continue these discussions. We're trying to work our way through this. There is a process for this, but thank you. We appreciate it. Okay. Yes? What's that? Oh, yeah, that's right. And I do want to say, the deputy mayor brings up a really good point. It does put up a very precarious point for city council members to respond individually about pending litigation. A representation by, and Bob Dockstetter is a lawyer from way back as well. It does put the council members in a precarious legal position because a representation or a statement by them could be potentially relied upon or used in the pending litigation. It is important in a pending litigation that's before federal court that we work through our attorneys. So offers were made previously. I don't want to get into the details of this. I don't think it's important. I don't think it's appropriate to do that in this setting. But we'll continue to work through our lawyers and work through this process, and we'll keep council, this city council, advised of that progress. Once again, thank you. Okay, now, Dennis Stiles. Oh, and while you guys, actually, Dennis and Michael, while I didn't believe it was appropriate to read and get into specific names of the officers, each council member does, and legal counsel, does have the transcript, does have this information. We will look at this, okay? So thank you very much. Dennis?
Greetings to the city council, mayor, deputy mayor. Just, again, I'm happy to be here. But these issues are so dear to my heart when it comes to like the city of Federal Way and the different issues that are going on. And running the city is hard, so I'm not going to say that you guys are doing a great job. But we talked about gangs. What is a gang, right? So I hear all of these meetings and this and that, but I don't see none of the youth there. I hear at-risk youth, but what is an at-risk youth? You see what I'm saying? Like, is it somebody that carries a gun? Is it somebody that could potentially go this way or whatever the case? Could the police be a gang? I mean, if I see somebody do something and I don't do anything about it, I mean, you just as bad as the person that actually did it. So when we talk about gangs, like, how are we actually addressing the issue as far as the youth in our community? Years ago, probably at least 5, 6, 7 years ago, it's funny because the issue that just happened with the murders that just happened, we actually knew those kids before all of this stuff. And we were like, man, we have action at getting these kids. We're doing the work just volunteering. We're just out here we're in the school system. We saw that the schools wasn't really trying to do anything about it. And we're just like, man, well, where do you go? Go to the school board meetings. Oh, yeah, in 10 years, we got all the data. But here's the thing, man. You we keep talking about minorities and this and that. Man, let's be specific. Black. Come on, man. Like, if I come from another country and I come here, and there's no disrespect, there are certain resources available to you. For the kids that are right here, we looking at these kids. We could do something, but we don't. We say, put them in special ed. We say, put them in ISS. We say, put them, and then they form these gangs, and then we have to deal with them in our community. We had action at these kids. It was crazy because we're actually having the conversation specifically, and then all of this stuff happens. Like 5 gangs are supposed to be forming. We're in the middle of everything, trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. Where's the resources, man? Like, nothing against anybody else, but I don't see any at-risk youth in here, man. Like, I don't see, like, the city actually trying to go after these kids and actually play a part in it. Center stage, sports, after-school programs. There's a lot of money floating around, and I really don't see. You put, like, 3 basically projects in the city. Tax breaks, they don't have to pay tax, property tax, whatever. The police resources got to go there. The schools are in disarray, and we knew it was going to happen. We seen it coming, the gentrification coming from Seattle. We seen it happening. So where are the programs that are for these kids? Where's the monies that can help these kids? A gang could be anything, a group of people. These kids, specifically, I asked a person from a gang, I said, well, why is this attractive to these kids? You guys don't care about them. You say they're dumb. You say they're not going to be nothing. You look at them. I don't care where I go. I get looked at. If I'm at the park with my kid, I get looked at funny. Like, I'm like, man, just because I'm here with my kid, it's a racial. We know this. All we ask is there's resources over here. There's resources over here. There's resources over here. What about the resources for these kids that are at risk, that are supposedly in you guys' viewpoint? Is all I got to say.
Thank you, Dennis. All right, we have a written comment.
Letter reads, to the Federal Way City Council regarding Center Stage. My husband and I are Seattle residents who thoroughly enjoy the Center Stage Theater and their productions. Over the last 5 years, we've come to numerous plays and have brought family and friends along with us. We often stop for dinner in the area before the show and enjoy patronizing local restaurants. We certainly hope Center Stage can continue to receive the funding they need for their excellent productions. This little theater is not only a gem for Federal Way, but for the greater Puget Sound area. Sincerely, Nancy Lomneth and Mark T. Boyd.
All right, thank you. To let the council know, there are discussions ongoing with Center Stage. I will have John email you all tomorrow with an update on the status of those negotiations and discussions, and we'll let you know what the status of that is, and we'll keep you posted. All right, thank you very much. I don't have any other public comments. Thank you so much. This is, again, like I said, the most important part of the meeting. The next part of the agenda is number 5, the consent agenda. These items have gone through committee. They can be passed all at once, but I will ask, after I read them, whether any particular items would wish to be pulled for separate consideration. Before our state representative leaves, I would like to acknowledge State Representative Mike Policiotti. Mike, thank you for being here. Let's give him a big round of applause for being here on his night off. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so item A, the minutes for the May 1st, 2018 regular and special meetings. Item B, the interagency agreement between the State of Washington, Highline College, and the City of Federal Way. Item C, the 2018 storm drain CCTV inspection and assessment bid award. Item D, Brook Lake Center Connector Trail at West Howells Wetland Park, 30% design status report. Item E, Lakota Park Stormwater Facility Repair Project bid award. Item F, the West Howells Creek South 373rd Street Gravel Removal Project bid award. Item G, resolution Retreat Meadows final plat approval. Item H, resolution setting public hearing of June 19th, 2018 for 2019 through 24 Transportation Improvement Plan and Arterial Street Improvement Plan. Item I, Adaptive Control Signal Control System Phases 1 and 2, 30% design report. Item J, Sound Transit Tacoma Dome Link Extension Partnering Agreement. Item K, Panther Lake Trail Construction. Item L, Panther Lake Footbridge. Item M, Ballistic Vest Partnership Grant. Item N, Pierce Transit Extra Duty Police Service Agreement. O, Military Road South at South 298th Street, compact roundabout project, 100% design status report, and authorization to bid. Council, are there any items that you would want to pull for separate consideration?
Yeah, I'd like to pull item G.
Councilmember Kopang has pulled item G, I believe at the request of the director as well. Thank you, and Councilmember Kopang is the chair of our Land Use Committee. Deputy Mayor, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do.
And actually, Council, any other motions to pull? All right, Deputy Mayor.
I move approval of items A through F and items H through O.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and now on to item G, Chair Kopang.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Before I start on item G, I just want to make a quick comment. And I think on the consent agenda, majority of these items are being paid for without general fund expenditure. And I think that it would be beneficial to the community to understand the source of the money for each of these items that we're putting through a consent process. But getting on to item G, that is the Retreat Meadows final plat. There has been a change brought forward by the developer, and while there's some agreement that it's a reasonable change be made, it needs to go through the full process with the Community Development Department before it can really be approved. So at this point, I'd recommend that I'd move to item F, or item G, Retreat Meadows final plat approval be referred back to the Land Use and Transportation Committee for further consideration.
Is there a second?
A second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Oh, Deputy Mayor Honda?
Oh, thank you. So it'll go back to LUTC. Do they start then at the very beginning, or is this something that, since this started in 2011, 2010, 2011? At what point do they restart this process?
There will be no restarting of the process. Whenever you go through final plat approval, it's confirming that the final plat substantially conforms to what has already been approved by the hearing examiner, making sure that all the I's have been dotted and all the T's have been crossed. And that's essentially what we're doing, is we're wrapping up a couple of details that were not fully vetted and taken care of before it was moved forward from LUTC, and now we're going to make sure that that's remedied.
And it'll be here next month?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is any other discussion or questions? Oh, sorry. He's just ready to vote. All right. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes unanimously. Okay, now, public hearing. This is regarding Title 19 Federal Way Revised Code interim zoning regulations. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. I'll introduce Mark Orthman, Deputy City Attorney. Please proceed.
Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor, council members. I'm here to introduce our outside counsel, Scott Snyder, who's a technology and telecommunications law expert. And as you pointed out, we're here for a public hearing regarding an interim zoning ordinance for our Title 19 telecommunications regulations. And what Scott's going to present tonight is really two ordinances that you'll be seeing later on this evening. One is the interim zoning ordinance that we're putting in place to control the next 6 months as we work out a lot of the major policy details and issues that we need to vet and go through through the Planning Commission and the Land Use and Transportation Committee to bring back final regulations for your consideration. And at the same time, he's also going to present Title IV franchising ordinance amendments, because the two different ordinances really go hand in hand with each other, and Scott's going to talk about the interplay of those ordinances and how these new small cell technologies will be regulated in our rights of way moving forward. So with that, I'll let Scott fill you in on the rest.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members, and my apologies to the members of your technical committee that I spoke with 2 weeks ago. We're going to cover some of the slides because we want to make sure that we present this adequately to the public, and some of you have seen this multiple times. Basically, as you're all aware, smartphones are far more than telephones. The amount of data has increased exponentially, 150,000 times for AT&T, or sorry, 150,000%. That's enough, since 2007. One of the advantages of standing in the audience and listening to people talk is I realize that sometimes I use terms that don't mean anything or don't reach the proper public listener. Small cells densify a network, and the citizen comment, well, what's densify about? It's basically increasing the capability of the existing macro towers, the large-scale facilities, to handle the enormous amount of data that's now being used. Small cells fill in the holes between macro sites. They're much different in scale than the standard towers that macro cells use, and they're typically installed on existing utility poles in the public right-of-way. State statute defines what a small cell facility is, and the FCC has extensively regulated, meaning preempted, the city's ability to regulate small cells. The FCC, Federal Communications Commission, has taken that over, and because this is a vital part of interstate commerce, and I guess it's obvious that Federal Way could not have different standards than Burien, than Tacoma, than Seattle, and have a system that's integrated and works. A small cell is more however, than a small antenna box. There's cabling, shutoffs, radio equipment, and other facilities that are installed typically on existing telephone poles. They can be installed within light poles, either ornamental or standard gooseneck. One recent development is the use of strand mounts, which are antennas that are located on the cables that connect poles, the lower cables, not the electric lines. And these facilities can provide coverage without as much of an impact on the urban environment as the larger scale antennas. So why two ordinances? Traditionally, utilities in the public right-of-way have been handled through franchises, which are a form of contract approved by the city council. Macro cells, that is towers, the large-scale facilities, have been, because they're located outside of the right-of-way on public property, have been handled through planning. What these ordinances attempt to do is to prepare the city for the deployment of small cells. Hundreds of thousands of small cell facilities are being deployed nationally. They're necessary to make the devices that everyone carries work appropriately. What we're trying to do is to integrate your franchising provisions, which deal with the ability of a company to occupy the public right-of-way, with permitting provisions that are similar to those in place for other utilities. There are more problematic questions on how to treat facilities in your core business areas and zoning, to integrate these provisions regarding small cells with the more intensive scrutiny that towers get, and to also be very careful and look carefully at concealment plans when you're installing facilities in undergrounded areas in your more sensitive zones, as well as in the shoreline. The courts have traditionally deferred to city councils as stewards of the public right-of-way when you make decisions about how to use public right-of-way. As you are well aware, the electric utilities, PSE, and others, as well as gas, natural gas, water, sewer, all occupy the public right-of-way. The land use powers are difficult to employ for a variety of reasons. the federal government has established strict time limits on the ability of cities to consider matters. Right-of-way use is not a land use action under GMA or regulatory reform. Land use, as I noted, should be reserved and is so reserved in these ordinances for tough situations, new poles in the public right-of-way, undergrounded areas, and the city's signature areas, your city core districts, landmark districts that you may designate, and your shorelines environment. One question is, and we need to be very clear up front, that the city's operating within a very narrow policy box under current state and federal preemptions. Preemption is the federal government or the state government saying you do not have authority to do anything. And the federal government has made this declaration in a variety of areas. A city can't exclude a wireless communications provider from the city, either directly or by putting up barriers to entry. You can't prevent a provider from closing a significant gap in coverage, and that typically comes up with where to locate a large-scale macro facility. The city can't dictate or limit the technological choices of the companies. That is, say, okay, I think that looks prettier, I'd rather have one macro cell than 30 small cells. Again, those technological choices are, by the FCC, prohibited for the city. One thing that citizens have concerns about that the federal government has also indicated a city cannot regulate, and that's radio frequency emissions, RF emissions. The ordinances contain provisions requiring certification of each facility, reasonable inspection requirements, and repair, and then if any facility ceases to operate within the appropriate federal parameters, it has to come out. That's the most you can do, and those provisions are included. The city must also provide a level playing field. You can't discriminate between service providers, and this often comes up with making sure that your requirements are even-handed in terms of when a particular provider comes into the city and making sure that each provider meets the same clear criteria. A city may address aesthetic issues by requiring that providers use the least intrusive means to close a gap in coverage. The city can regulate new poles in the right-of-way and utility poles over 60 feet in height. PSE plays a key role as the owner of the poles. Their lease agreements really define the box that the cell carriers have to operate in, and the state and national electrical codes also dictate the placement of small cell facilities. I mentioned shot clocks. The thing to note here is a franchise has to be approved within 120 days of approval. Co-location, putting one facility on an existing facility, you have 90 days, and expansions, smaller scale expansions, the city has 60 days in which to operate. One question that you may have, and the public surely will, is why use an interim zoning ordinance? And the short answer, there are 4 reasons. One, cell carriers are currently looking to come into your community and put in facilities to improve the coverage of your citizens' devices. Secondly, there's a possibility in the upcoming legislative session of preemption. Those cities that have provisions in place stand a better chance of maintaining their regulatory authority. I mentioned the shot clocks. The city has to act quickly, and finally, and most importantly, your current codes, because this is brand new technology, have gaps that limit your ability to regulate the facilities. So we need to get something in place. The sheer length and technical detail of the ordinance, though, really call for thoughtful scrutiny. And what we're suggesting is using the interim zoning process, which would provide up to 6 months of review by the planning board, which could be extended if you want to adopt a work plan, to do the deep dive into the technical issues and particularly the aesthetic issues that are important to your citizens. The ordinance's structure basically build on approval of a franchise. Once a company has the right to be in your right-of-way, they can have specific types of facilities approved. The ordinances contain very specific design requirements for small cell installations on existing utility poles, and frankly, that's where they're going to go first. It's the cheapest, it's a resource that's been identified by the FCC, and it's available for use. Minor deviations would be handled through administrative review. Significant variations, new poles, or installations in design or underground districts would require concealment plans through either a conditional use permit or an administrative permit, depending on where they would be located. Franchise application provisions have been enhanced to ensure that the companies pick up the cost of a review. This provides an opportunity to specifically negotiate, take advantage of the court's deference to city council authority, and provide a decision by the city council to issue a franchise within 120 days of the application. Some key concepts: the ordinances incorporate the federal shot clocks. They take advantage of the court's deference to your legislative and contracting powers. They treat small cells in the right-of-way like other utility facilities. For example, PSC does not come in and pull a permit to put a transformer in, and that transformer is as large or larger than most small cell facilities. They contain small cell design and concealment standards that are intended to be incorporated with your existing macro tower provisions. When I say macro towers, I'm talking about the darn big things, 120 feet towers with multiple antenna arrays. They encourage the use of existing utility poles as the major resource for deployment and discourage new poles. They also have provisions that prevent orphan poles. If a neighborhood undergrounds, prevent a pole with a small cell facility from remaining in place when the other poles come down. We're retaining the existing macro tower provisions that have worked for the city in the past and save the greatest scrutiny, as noted, to those gaps in coverage, new poles, and significant deviations from standards. That's the quick tour of many, many pages of ordinance. I'll note that probably a quarter of the ordinance is new. When you amend zoning code definitions or try and fit provisions into lengthy chapters, we end up with a lot of volume. So we provided legislative format showing the new material that's been added. The staff over the past months have been working, I've been working with your staff, and we've also circulated drafts to the cell carriers. As I noted in a memo to you, they made a number of comments, some of which dealt with technical, typographical. When you 90 pages of ordinance, there are going to be some typos. We tried to deal with those, and I provided a red line draft correcting those technical issues. Other issues that they've identified are policy issues that we suggest are best handled in that deep dive by your planning commission and eventually by the council after we've had months of public comment and the opportunity to truly consider the policy implications of changes or the cell company's issues. Be happy to answer questions, or if you'd like to call me back after the public portion of the hearing, be happy to come back then.
Council, any questions? All right, we may have to call you back. All right, thank you, Scott, very much. Okay, do we have any citizen comment at 3 minutes each? Anybody have any comment? Okay. Council discussions or questions? Council, any questions or comments? Councilor Kopeng.
I think, Scott, just to be clear here, basically what we're doing is we're allowing the current carriers to supplement their services within the city in the least intrusive way possible while still retaining control overall in our zoning and our use of the right-of-way. Is that an accurate statement?
It is accurate. I would just say it's in the way that the federal government allows you to control those aesthetic effects.
Fair enough. I think that's an important qualification. But again, the city is not, we really are not ceding any authority or any aesthetic say in what's going on within the limitations of the federal government on what's going on with the micro towers.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We've retained the maximum city authority that's currently available. One of the reasons why we'd like to have this addressed before the next legislative session is in the last two sessions, the cell companies have taken a swing at preempting local authority. They've been effective in 35 states. Washington is one of the few states where the Association of Washington Cities has been able to retain local zoning authority.
Good, thank you.
All right, Council, any other questions? Councilmember Sefa Dawson.
Yeah, so kind of as a follow-up, if and when new entities come into play, providers such as AT&T or whomever we have now, do they get to use those macro or micro towers? Or what's the relationship and how does that impact what we're doing today?
Yes, ma'am. That's some basics here. A franchise is the right to use your right-of-way, the streets and area immediately adjacent to the streets. The macro towers are owned by cell phone companies, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, as you note. They've been installed pursuant to conditional use permits on private property. What we're talking about is using public property, the rights-of-way, for smaller scale facilities to basically fill in the gaps and provide better coverage.
All right, Council, any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Mayor?
All right, Councilmember Kopeng, do you have a motion?
Yeah, I would move to close the public hearing.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion passes. And so we've had our public hearing, and now we'll move on to item 7, council business. We are now, this is the rescheduling of August 7th, 2018 regular council meeting. And I'll ask the deputy mayor to not only make the motion, but explain the history of what is now happening by custom on the first Tuesday in August.
Sure. The first Tuesday in August is National Night Out, and that's something that is very active here in our city of Federal Way. We have many neighborhoods, and last year we had a citywide event also at Town Square Park. And we found a few years ago that council members wanted to be involved in that, and instead we were here having a council meeting. So we decided a few years ago that we would like to reschedule our August meeting, the first meeting of the month, to the second week of Tuesday, so that we could participate as a council in National Night Out. And so for that, I would move to suspend Council Rule 2.1 and to reschedule the August 7th, 2018 City Council regular meeting to August 14th of 2018.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Kopech? Sorry, just kidding.
No, actually, I was going to say, just so we're aware, we do have a Parks, Recreation, Human Services, and Public Safety meeting on the 14th, so that would need to be rescheduled as well, but that does not need council action.
Okay. All right, it's a worthy event, something that we all like to go out and do, and we were precluded from doing so previously when we had these meetings. So, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, our council meeting, our one and only council, well, our council meeting right now is set for the 14th. Item B, cancellation of the August 21st, 2018 regular council meeting. Deputy Mayor Honda.
So this is in regards to canceling the last regularly scheduled meeting in August to allow council to have some kind of a vacation. This is only one of two meetings that we will cancel as the city council. We generally will cancel the last meeting in December also. Other than that, we meet twice a month. It's the full council, and the other Tuesdays we're in council committee meetings. So I move to suspend Council Rule 2.1 and to cancel the August 21st, 2018 City Council regular meeting.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and second to cancel that second meeting by way of a previous custom and practice. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Arts Commission appointment, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to appoint Karen Brugado as a voting member of the Arts Commission for a term to expire December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passes unanimously. Congratulations. Okay, item 8, ordinances. Let me just say, first reading. Council Bill 739, adopting interim land use regulations to control the provision of telecommunications facilities within the city. Deputy City Mark Orthran.
Scott Snyder gave our presentation on this already for the Title 19 interim zoning ordinances. So if you have any other questions, we're happy to answer them as they come up.
And he did a great job. Council, are there any questions? Okay, thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Okay, would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 739, adopting interim land use regulations to control the provision of telecommunications facilities within the city. An ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington, relating to the adoption of interim land use regulations and official controls pursuant to RCW 35A 63220 and RCW 3670A 390 to control the provision of telecommunication facilities within the city, amending Federal Way Revised Code 1905, 010, 1905-050, 1905-130, 1905-170, and 1905-240, to revise and repeal definitions relating to wireless communications, Federal Way Revised Code 19-15010, to exempt street use approvals, Federal Way Revised Code 19-190-030, to clarify the application of unzoned property to right-of-way use, repealing Chapter 19-255, Federal Way Revised Code, and adding a new Chapter 19-255, Federal Way Revised Code, relating to wireless communication facilities.
Okay, Councilmember Kopang.
I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the June 5th, 2018 council meeting for second reading and enactment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That matter passes unanimously. All right, thank you. Item B, Council Bill 740, amending Title IV, Federal Way Revised Code to establish regulations relating to small cell deployments, franchising, and small cell permits in the city's right-of-way. Mark, anything to add?
Broken record, unless you have any further questions.
Nope. Okay. Council, actually, they're voting. So, Council, do you have any other questions? All right, just want to make sure. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 740, amending Title IV, Federal Way Revised Code to establish regulations relating to small cell deployments, franchising, and small cell permits in the city's right-of-way. An ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington, relating to small cell deployments, franchising, and small cell permits in the city's rights-of-way and federally required review periods, amending Chapter 422 Federal Way Revised Code and adding new chapters 4.23 and 4.24 Federal Way Revised Code.
Okay, Councilmember Kopang.
I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the June 5th, 2018 council meeting for second reading and enactment.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passes unanimously. Item C, Council Bill 741, amend Federal Way Revised Code 1980 regarding docket process in Department of Commerce notification. We've got Planning Manager Doc Hanson here for a brief report.
Excuse me, council, I thought I picked up the icon before. Just to give you a background of this proposal, it's an amendment to the code. It'd be an ordinance to amend the code for the docket process. Just as a background of everything, at the LUTC meeting, I gave a summary of just exactly what the docket process is and what it entails. In the history of the City of Federal Way, most of your docket actions have been comprehensive plan amendments to the map and rezones, and they've accompanied one another. The docket process, according to RCW 3670A, also allows, under that process, to regulate or change regulations which implement the comprehensive plan and regulations in themselves. The docket process is limited to only be held once a year because the GMA indicates that there is an update of the comprehensive plan every 8 years. However, all jurisdictions run into issues where they wish to upgrade or update their regulations and also their comprehensive plans. When I came here, let me put this in perspective. This is approximately a year ago, just less than a year ago. I came into this room when we were discussing the docket process, and the room was full. Most of you will remember that. There were a lot of people that were in the room who were angry about or had concerns about 5 different issues on the docket. And they were all land use issues. They all dealt with rezones and comprehensive plan amendments on certain pieces of property in a particular area. They voiced their concerns about the particular action, if it had actually occurred. They were under the impression that the hearing that was being held was for the purpose of rezone and reclassification of the comprehensive plan. I note that this is a very unusual process to hold a public hearing to decide the docket. The purpose of the docket is to make a decision, the council to make a decision on what items it further wishes to consider for amendment, or even if they wish to consider amendment. At the end of that hearing, Ms. Clark and I went out into the lobby, and one of the things that we noted was that there were a lot of angry people there because they thought that they were making comment at that public hearing about those particular items, not about the prioritization of those items and which ones would be considered. A lot of those people which were angry did not show up at the actual public hearing of the Planning Commission where these items are taken into account. That in place made me wonder and bring up to a number of people why we had this process, why there was a need for a public hearing. The proposal was suggested to the mayor, and a description, a change of the docket for the elimination of the public hearing, the need for the public hearing to prioritize these items, and to clarify some of the language that is allowing the proposal, the submittal of these proposed amendments prior to PC approval. The important thing to note here, and a number of people have brought this up, is that by taking away this public hearing, we're limiting the number of opportunities for the public to participate in this and actually make comment upon any item that is proposed for amendment before in regulation or comprehensive plan. These 4 bullet items indicate that we have 4 opportunities. The citizens have 4 opportunities in the process in which to comment. That opportunity is not being changed. It just is eliminating the need for a public hearing to allow for that public participation. They'll still they'll still have the ability to make comments accepted at a regular council meeting. They'll still have comments at a public hearing, which is required by our code, before the Planning Commission. They'll still have the opportunity to make comments before the Land Use and Transportation Committee, and they'll still have the opportunity to make comments before you twice on any of these items. So taking away the public hearing is not going to change the opportunity the public has to make any comments. Any verbal or written comment on any of these proposals are going to be accepted throughout the period from the time that we accept and we begin processing these applications. Again, at the first meeting, without public hearing, the council will prioritize these items, determine the number of items that are going to be considered during that year. We're emphasizing the time of notification, we're taking the fees out of code, and we're requesting a reason from the council in which to send items back to the Planning Commission if the Planning Commission has already heard this. But the basic thing that is being changed here is that the prioritization is being done at a public meeting rather than a public hearing. And the other major thing that's being changed here is that we can send these items for review before the Department of Commerce at state, which is required by the Growth Management Act, at any time during the process. Right now, within the code, we have to do it after the Planning Commission hearing, which has extended this process extensively. What I'd like to point out to you is this is what the process would look like with this amendment. Staff would begin research approximately the same time as what we do right now in preparation for hearing, just to prioritize this. This would be changed where the staff would begin research and preparation for the public hearing before the Planning Commission, which would happen at the same time. All of the staff time would be placed in that except for making brief presentation to you about the items that you have to consider to prioritize. The rest of the process is going to remain the same. The options to the council tonight is to approve the proposal as presented. Second option is to approve the proposal with modification. And the third one is to deny the proposal. Mayor recommends approval of the proposal, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Council, any question? Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much. Doc, thank you for your presentation. I'm going to sound like a broken record when I ask you to repeat this because I want to make sure we're clear on it. So from what I've gathered here, the public still will be involved, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that doesn't change anything.
That's
the only
correct.
thing that I'm understanding that's being changed is instead of staff taking the time to prepare for the Land Use and Transportation Committee, they're actually preparing for the public meeting.
We will still be taking these items of prioritization before the Land Use and Transportation Committee.
Mm-hmm.
They will still be presented this. The public will still know what's on the agenda. It will just be taken to the council and dealt with at regular business.
So essentially, it's more efficient for staff to work through this new process of the docket procedure.
It's saving staff a considerable amount of time, and it's lessening the confusion to the public in terms of what this hearing is about.
Great. And my last question, Mr. Mayor, is where did this idea kind of come about? How did this idea come up?
Which idea?
This docking station.
The docket?
Docket system.
The docket system was actually established through the Growth Management Act itself.
Okay.
So all jurisdictions have a docketing process, the same as ours. They just use an administrative process similar to what's being proposed before you.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Okay. Council, any other questions? Thank you, Doc. Good job, thank you. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 741, amending Federal Revised Code 19.80 regarding docket process and Department of Commerce notification, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington relating to the annual comprehensive plan and development regulation amendment procedure and amending Federal Revised Code 19.80.050, 19.80.070, 19.80.080, 19.80.090, 19.80.170, 19.80.180, 19.80.260, and 19.80.270.
All right. Councilmember Kopang.
I'd move to forward the proposed ordinance to the June 5th, 2018 council meeting for second reading and enactment.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the matter passes unanimously. Second reading. Item A, Council Bill 738, a 2017-18 biennial budget amendment. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 738, 2017-2018 biennial budget amendment, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington relating to amending the 2017-2018 biennial budget.
All right. Chair Duclos.
I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes unanimously. Council reports. Councilmember Duclos.
I'll be very brief. I attended the police press conference this morning, which we had several TV stations there, a lot of people in the audience, and Councilmember Kopang, Mark, and Deputy Mayor Honda and I were there, as well as, of course, the mayor and everyone. It was good hearing how the police managed to track and find those men that killed, I think it was 3 members of our community, 4 on this one. But it was quite a time in this community when we had that. It was 2 years ago, I think. And I know a lot of people felt unsafe and everything. And I think the police just did a wonderful, magnificent job in tracking these people down and finding them and finally bringing them to justice. So again, Chief Huang and all of the members of the force, thank you all so much for the work you did in working with other police officers and departments to bring these people back and to bring them to justice. And I think that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I'm hoping that Councilmember Tran has his clock stopwatch started here. That being said, thank you. First, it's an interesting period of time, and of course that can be said at any time, Mr. Mayor, but, I think we can all say that we appreciate our police officers and the work they do. They take an oath, they swear to it, and they have to uphold that oath. And more importantly, I appreciate their efforts and the finite details of their jobs. We have the Moore household. My parents have a very longtime friend, Patty Bastian. And if anybody watched the news yesterday, the Tacoma Police Chief did a press conference and along with their mayor and prosecutor about Jennifer Bastian, who lost her life towards a horrific crime and a murder at the Point Defiance back in 1986. And that hit the news wave yesterday. And so my prayers and thoughts are continuing to be with the Bastian family. If you'll take a look at my Facebook page after tonight, facebook.com, Councilmember Martin Moore. Just go to that. But I will put an area, nonprofit that you can be involved with to work towards ending this horrific crime that's happened to Jennifer back when she was 13 years old in 1986. Check it out if you'd like to, but it's a very sad case. That started 1986, and they just now solved that case literally this week, if I understand it correctly. We talk about Federal Way, our police officers doing an incredible amount of work, and how it's taken a virtually long time, with the reality, I should say, taken a long time to solve the problems. It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes commitment to, as you said, Mr. Mayor, find justice and provide justice for the families that have been horrifically impacted. And so I say those two instances because I want to take the time to, again, acknowledge the work of our police officers, our police chiefs, and really our mayors, along with the policy partners of the councils of both Tacoma and Federal Way in the work that they do. And so I appreciate it, and I'm looking at you, Mr. Chief Juan, so thank you. Moving forward, I want to, and a few other issues here. I'm actually quite excited about this, Mr. Mayor. This has been a long time coming. I started working on this last year, and I'm really pleased that I'm going to make it happen starting in June. So June 2nd, I will be having my first series of Saturday morning coffee and conversations on June 2nd, 9:30. The location will be announced on Facebook and other media sources. But the point of this month for June is how can we all be engaged and get involved in our communities? And so I'm pleased to have partnered up with Fusion, Federal Way Coalition Against Human Trafficking, and Do the Right Thing with Cheryl Hurst being a leader in that. There'll be more nonprofits there. It's just a very casual time where we can kind of come together, have a cup of coffee, tea, smoothie, whatever. I know, Councilmember Tran, you had a smoothie this morning, so even a smoothie at 8 o'clock in the morning is also fun to have. So at any rate, you can have that and just have fun, have conversations, and talk about how can we all get involved in our communities. So look for that in the coming days. I also want to take the time to acknowledge Center Stage. Thank you. I see Angela is in the audience still. Thank you for the work you guys do. I love, and I see the board president as well. I love the success stories and the efforts and the work that you've put through. I love how you're tying in how you can be part of the solution and the challenges that our city faces. And so thank you for illustrating that. And again, I urge my colleagues, but also the mayor, and coming up with a good, healthy compromise. And that is what I'm looking for. Not speaking for myself, I'm not looking for a no contract option. As I said at the last meeting, that's a no option for me. And so I look forward to getting an update with John to see how that's going as well. And then last but not least, I'm an alternate on the PIC meeting. It's a public issues committee. It's a regional committee through Sound Cities Association. It's where a lot of regional leaders come together to talk about the various public policy issues. And so I had the opportunity to attend on behalf of my colleague, Councilmember Lydia Safadasan, and we talked about a lot of exciting issues. One of them being homelessness. This is an epidemic that's happening. I won't go into the details. And if you're not noticing, I am trying to talk faster because I know I'm up against my time. But I'm really pleased I was able to represent Federal Way during the one table conversation. If you guys will recall, that is the county's efforts to try and reduce homelessness. I'm intrigued with the conversations. I know that I got to voice what we're doing here in Federal Way with the Homeless Task Force. And I've talked about Albuquerque, New Mexico's plan in terms of addressing panhandling and homelessness at the same time, which is something I've talked about before. I know the mayor's has done the research and perhaps is on the table for the task force. So happy to represent Federal Way. And there are many other things to be said, but a lot of exciting events. And I appreciate the honor to represent people, and to my colleagues for letting me speak of my updates of what's on my mind. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Copang.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank you, Mayor, for looking at the zero, with the zero sum, was it the, I'm sorry, zero-based budget approach.
ZBB.
Yeah, I think the whole dialogue on revenue and the need for responsibility, and while I firmly believe the council and the city has been run responsibly for all these years, I think that the public is paying attention in a way that they haven't before. And for us to step up our level of accountability and our process, I think is a good thing. So thank you for doing that. For Councilmember Juan, thank you very much. Appreciate that. But I wanted to just talk about a couple things happening in Federal Way. The swim team, led by Teresa Thurlow, I think did a great job, and they still are in process of doing the salmon release with the students here in Federal Way Public School District. What they do is they basically have it set up so that the scholars in the Federal Way School District can go to the Hylabos and release salmon and be a part of creating dinner for us in the future. And it's certainly an informative process, and that is a beautiful area of our city. For those of you that have not been to the Hylabos, you really should go and enjoy the peace and quiet. Really, it's an amazing thing to kind of get back on that boardwalk and kind of realize that you're still in the city, but you feel like you're in the middle of the wilderness in a sense. So definitely a wonderful area, and I got to release a salmon myself. The requirement was that I named him. I named him Fry and sent him away. So anyway, it was a very inventive name, I know. But anyway, got to have a little bit of fun. The other thing that I got to do was really a pleasure, and got to do this with Councilmember Johnson, was go to Camelot and read to the students. What the Diversity Commission has done over the years is they've picked out books that they thought were very effective in explaining the diversity of race, of abilities, different abilities, and basically in a storybook form, so the kids can relate to people that are different than them or have different abilities than they do. And it was a lot of fun to get in front of the kids, and I got to read a story about a boy that only had one leg and found a way to ride a bike 400 miles across western Ghana. So again, a cool story, and it's a true story. But again, it really showed the difficulty, the adversity that this young man faced, but his perseverance. And again, great story, I think, even for me. I think, we read those things, but there's always something to be learned. So again, great program. I really appreciate the Diversity Commission's commitment to that, and I appreciate the city's commitment as well to continue to donate books to the school district on an annual basis. So with that, I'm done.
Great. Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I would like to echo my peers by thanking the chief and the police department for your great work. Every day, your officers, keep us safe, and I really appreciate that. Secondly, I want to take this opportunity to thank the mayor for your willingness to use this zero-based budgeting method as recommended by this council. I know this is gonna, create some additional work for you and your staff, but by using this method, I truly believe that there is a potential for saving, and I really looking forward to be a partner with you and your staff during this 2019 and 2020 budget process.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we kind of touched on the theme of the night, which is the zero-based budget. And again, just like my colleagues, want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, in agreeing to utilize that method. I think, really get fine-grained into the dynamic of, cost-effective resource management. So again, just want to thank you for that. I want to echo Councilmember Kopang. It was a great time reading to kindergartners, first graders, and second graders at Camelot. And again, the city and the work of the Diversity Commission around donating those books. And finally, I want to thank the police chief, Huang, for the Watchdown live stream at work today. So you did a great job. And also, my colleagues, Councilmember Moore and Kopang, and the Parks Rec Human Services Public Safety Committee. I think we had a fruitful discussion last week around youth employment, police training. Chief Wong presented around police training and also homelessness. I think we had a good conversation around that. And I think, tonight, I also want to thank, my colleagues, because it was really a emotionally charged night in terms of testimonies from citizens. So I think it's really good that, we're up here and we can't really react to it, but I think we did a good job at listening. And I know that, all of us up here, take all of the issues that are brought up very seriously. And I think that it's important that that's said to the community. We get these details and we take a look at it, and it's important that they know that. Finally, I would agree that I would love to look at the idea of a police accountability board, just for the sake of the community having a say and an opportunity to look at the details of certain conversations. I think it promotes equity and collaboration, which is a part of the core foundation of what we do here at the city. And back in February, our mission statement was really being inclusive, being responsive, and also being the most safe city in the region. I think that promotes that. So that could be an integral part of what we're doing here at the city. So I really would encourage all of us to look at that and take a serious look at how that could work. And with that, I'll close.
Councilmember Sapadowski.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think tonight's theme is the appreciation of what goes on in our city, the public comment, and my colleagues. So most of the things I wanted to say are actually said. The beauty of being last to speak. Now I can relate to what Councilmember Dini always talks about. But when the crimes occurred 2 years ago, I was just returning back from abroad, from Ethiopia, and I remember how shaken everybody was, and the whole environment, the whole atmosphere, everything was just not good. And I remember how it felt, and I'm just so appreciative and thankful that it got solved. And thank you, like everyone said, thank you for the hard work. So with that, I too would end my part of the speech. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Hondo.
Thank you. So I also want to thank the police department, but also the public works department, because both departments work together, and one can't really do their own job without the other department doing their job. So thank you very much. And to all of our city, you should all have a week. Every department should have a week. But this month it's public works and police, so thank you very much. This last Saturday at Decatur High School, there was an event called Fed Factor, and I'd like to thank Councilmember Johnson for coming. Elizabeth Adams is a student at Decatur, and she planned it this year. This was it was actually the third Fed Factor that's happened, and I've been involved with all three of them. It's a district-wide talent show for high school students, and they do charge a small donation to come in, and all monies raised this year were donated to the Tacoma Humane Society and to the Federal Way Coalition Against Trafficking. We had a really great time. It was a lot of fun. I laughed more than I've laughed in a long time. It was just, we have a lot of talented kids, but the MCs for the night were just quite amazing. And when I was in high school, I was so shy I didn't want to talk to anyone. And these kids are up there talking and making jokes and just doing an amazing job. So I have to really give my hat to them. But thank you, Elizabeth. You did an awesome job, and I know that you worked for months on this, and I'm sure you're glad it's done. So this is a month where we have a fifth Tuesday, but it's not a day off. We're going to have a special study session, and we're going to be studying the budget and revenue options. So we're looking forward to being here on our fifth Tuesday. It'll be great.
Don't sound so happy about it.
Well, it's not often we get a fifth Tuesday, actually 4 times a year, because I have checked. and I know what months they fall in, but we really do need to have this study session, so I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be good. I think you're absolutely right, Deputy Mayor, is that we want to, any chance we can get to talk about these issues is good, that we can really roll up our sleeves, and we'll look forward to a great presentation from Aday, and we'll talk with the council members about what you'd like to see in that presentation. All right. You guys, great meeting today. I'm proud to sit up here with you. Have a great night, everybody, and we are adjourned.